The way we thought about how Activision treats Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon has been wrong. What started as a quick potential update video has turned into what I believe is a paradigm shift in our understanding. We now have a much better look on how Activision actually handles these beloved properties and what it could mean for their future. Let's talk about it. We have a lot to get into, so let's just dive right in. It all started back in September 2025. The Crash Bandicoot social media page, which largely has been seen as being on life support, changed their bio across all social media. The new bio reads as, "I don't chase trends, I crash them." Now, we did report the story on Twitter, but we didn't feel or think that it was worth to make a full-blown video about it. Then, things got even weirder. On September 9th, we celebrated Spyro for our community day that we hold every year, the Spyro Community Day. But it also was Spyro and Crash Bandicoot's anniversary. Specifically, Spyro's was the 27th, and Crash's was the 29th. Toys for Bob actually celebrated with us on that day, even going as far as making some beautiful art celebrating Spyro's anniversary and the community day, along with the official verified Spyro account coming online and joining in. But Crash Bandicoot? Nothing. Not a post. Additionally, Toys for Bob, the studio behind Crash Bandicoot 4 and Crash Team Rumble, their last two games, didn't say a word about Crash either. Fast forward to about a month later, landing on Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time's 5th anniversary. The Crash Bandicoot account actually tweeted about it. But why would Crash Bandicoot tweet about the fourth game's 5th anniversary, but not the series' 29th? Maybe the people behind the accounts forgot. But it gets even weirder. Toys for Bob, once again, said nothing. Yup, nothing. The studio behind the last mainline Crash Bandicoot game said nothing about it on its 5th anniversary. But another company did, Iron Galaxy. Now, who is Iron Galaxy? Iron Galaxy is a third-party team that has close relations to both Xbox and Activision. They are known for taking over the post-launch updates for Killer Instinct and porting the modern mainline Crash games over to Steam. More specifically, they did it for the Crash Insane trilogy. Hardsuit Labs actually did the PC port for Crash 4 to Battle.net, and then Iron Galaxy took that and made the Steam version. So for Crash Bandicoot 4, Iron Galaxy had quite a minimal amount of involvement in comparison to their work on the Insane PC port. Now comes the tweet that started this deep dive. A Crash fan on Twitter by the name of Carlos Morales pointed something out. This tweet is translated from Spanish, but according to Carlos in this translated tweet, the official Crash Bandicoot account had just followed Iron Galaxy's account on Instagram. Now, I could not confirm the timing of that follow itself. I don't have a tool that can tell me when a follow had happened. However, one of the things that did happen was that Iron Galaxy reposted Crash Bandicoot 4's 5th anniversary celebration post and added a Crash gif of him pointing at it. So Toys for Bob didn't post, repost, or say anything about Crash Bandicoot 4. In fact, no other company that worked on Crash 4 commented on his 5th anniversary, except for Iron Galaxy, a company that ported the game from Battle.net to Steam. So at this point, this is all very circumstantial. Things seem just surface level, right? Well, then a data mine happened, but not one for Crash Bandicoot, but for a different Activision franchise, Prototype. In 2009, Prototype, a game developed by Radical Entertainment, was an open-world action game that did fairly well for what it was. However, its sequel, while it was also considered to be a good game, did not gain as much commercial success that Activision had hoped for, leading to Radical being unfortunately downsized to pretty much being a support studio. Well, an update was pushed through Steam for that game. Data miners found developer and test maps added on the back end, along with a giant list of credits. This, of course, has led to discussions about a potential remaster, or perhaps coming to Game Pass. We are unsure. So when I went to the credits to see what the differences were, I found it. The key that turns this fun theory into a deep rabbit hole. Right at the top, there was a new team that was added from Activision called Emerging Franchises. Remember this name, Emerging Franchises. So I thought to myself, that sounds interesting. I wonder what they do. And so I started digging, and what I found blew my mind. I dug through old job listings, through previous employee interviews, blogs, LinkedIn profiles, everything that had to do with this team's title and being associated with Activision. And here is what I was able to find. Activision, of course, is known for its annual release and constant content for its mega IP, Call of Duty. But as you are all aware, Activision does own other properties, but they aren't actually managed by the same team that manages Call of Duty. Within the Activision system, there's a completely different team called Emerging Franchises. This team is responsible for bringing back Activision's smaller IP in an impactful way. What IP specifically? Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Tony Hawk. These three IPs are handled and managed by this team specifically. These are not developers like Beanox or Toys for Bob, but producers, marketers, delegates. They are essentially the head office for these specific games. Yes, they are developers, but not a full development team or studio. Now, we know that Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Tony Hawk have had multiple developers that have worked on them in a multitude of different ways. These properties basically get hot potatoed around, but the Emerging Franchises team seemingly is the constant between all of these games. But our favorite orange marsupial has a problem. The two teams that originally developed the last mainline Crash Bandicoot games, Vicarious Visions and Toys for Bob, are no longer available, with Vicarious Visions merging with Blizzard and Toys for Bob going indie and working on the next Spyro game. Even Beanox seems to be not focused on emerging franchises, as they are seemingly just wanting to focus on Call of Duty. There isn't anyone within reach to make a new Crash game, and so there is a developer vacuum issue here. However, something like this has already happened. Back in 2020, Tony Hawk 1+2 was released alongside Crash Bandicoot 4. This remake of the first two games was made by Vicarious Visions and Beanox. The game was a critical success and sold very well. Everyone, including Activision, was very happy, but at the same time, Vicarious Visions was called on to help Blizzard with their awesome remastering skills to help with the Diablo 2 remaster. Their work was so good, Blizzard wanted them to become a permanent part of their team. And so they did. Vicarious Visions would later become Blizzard Albany, but this change would create a huge issue. A few years later, confirmed by an interview, Tony Hawk himself confirmed that there was a plan in place for Tony Hawk 3+4 to also get remade like 1 and 2, but it was going to be led by Vicarious Visions, and because they merged with Blizzard, the project was completely stopped, and thus the Tony Hawk franchise was left in limbo, with no one to develop a game for it. Another developer vacuum. However, a few years later, after a tease in Call of Duty Warzone, Tony Hawk 3+4 was shockingly revealed. But who? Who was the company to take the mantle of bringing back Tony Hawk once more? Ladies and gents, Iron Galaxy. Then, when we got to the credits of the game and we scrolled down, look at one of the top teams from Activision. Emerging Franchises. Doesn't that name seem familiar? Now, let's go back to that prototype credit leak. While Emerging Franchises is at the top, when we scroll down close to the bottom, you will never guess who is also credited. Iron Galaxy. The significance of this is that Iron Galaxy is no longer being seen as just a support and port studio, but now has seemingly been integrated into the delegation system of developers, specifically working for the Emerging Franchises team, the team responsible for Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and Tony Hawk. Now, with all this in mind, let's take it from the top. Crash's social media bio change, I don't chase trends, I crash them. This change had happened in September, so I checked the Emerging Franchises team. Was there any activity going on at the time? And I found something. Meet Jason Finn. Finn was found at the very tippy top of the Emerging Franchises team in the prototype leak, along with being a part of the Emerging team's credits for Tony Hawk 3+4. Finn initially worked at Activision, left, and then returned later on. Can you guess what project he returned for? He came back for Crash Team Rumble. Now, he didn't have a leadership role at the time, but he does now, because in August 2025, Finn was promoted to being Director of Product Management in the Emerging Franchises division. This was 1 month before Crash changed his bio across social media. With a change in leadership, it's indicative that there could also be new directives, which could include Crash Bandicoot. When you tie that with the fact that Iron Galaxy is now directly involved as a new keystone developer within the division that is responsible for Crash Bandicoot, with Crash being in a very similar, if not exact situation that Tony Hawk was in when Iron Galaxy took the reins for its development, being the only team outside of the main account that celebrated Crash 4's 5th anniversary, even though they played a rather minimal role, the Crash account following Iron Galaxy on Instagram so shortly after the change to Crash's bio, along with a new director being promoted in the division who is responsible for Crash Bandicoot 1 month before this whole fiasco begins. Boy howdy, this goes real deep. Now, there's a few more details that I want to mention. In the prototype credit list, Iron Galaxy only has 6 members listed. Iron Galaxy has multiple studios and over 200 employees. So if they are involved with whatever this prototype thing is, it seems to be rather minimal and probably won't take up a large portion of their time, but they are involved. Now, do you know who else is mentioned in the prototype credit list? Beenox. Now, this is interesting because Beenox had positioned itself as wanting to be essentially a full-blown Call of Duty studio. Seeing them back in the mix with emerging franchises makes me wonder if their position has changed. So I went to Beenox's jobs and decided to see if there was anything that caught my interest. And while a lot of the jobs were very clearly set up to be for Call of Duty, specifically like this one asking for real-life biome environments, there are a few that weren't. These job listings, for example, were looking for people who had skills in motion capture and realism, of course, but also in cartoon animation and fantasy. Why would you need either of those for a gritty first-person shooter? It's possible that Beenox in some capacity might be rejoining the emerging franchise's development team. Whether that's as lead developers or support for another project, we don't know. So what's the conclusion here? Crash Bandicoot confirmed? No, of course not. We have no idea what they're planning, but what we can confirm is that the team responsible for delegating Crash Bandicoot at Activision has brought on a new keystone development team, Iron Galaxy, and that team seems to be flirting with the idea of making a new Crash game. Next year is Crash Bandicoot's 30th anniversary. That is a huge milestone. It would be a shame if there was nothing prepared for it, no? Wouldn't it be nice if, I don't know, something was announced to celebrate Crash, much like how the Insane Trilogy was mentioned for Crash's 20th anniversary? Just a thought. Now, there are still endless questions here. Will Iron Galaxy try to make the game that Toys for Bob initially started? Will they try to make their own Crash Bandicoot 5? Maybe they'll get help from Beenox and make a brand new CTR 2, or maybe something completely different. Comment below what you want to see in an Iron Galaxy led Crash game. Now, if you're a fan of platformers, you may also be a fan of Sly Cooper. Well, recently I got to sit down and have an interview with the voice of Sly Cooper himself, Kevin Miller. If you want to see that video, you can check it out right here. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.